All Things Mavs.
Mavs fans, what's going on? Welcome into All Things Mavs. Hey, if you haven't subscribed already, I don't know what you're doing. A lot of you guys watch our channel, and we appreciate all y'all. And hey, also make sure you're following me on Twitter at all_things_Mavs, because guys, when I can't get you a video, which I know is not every hour on the hour like I would like, and I know you would like, I've got you covered on my Twitter account as well. But make sure you've subscribed here, because I get to go more in depth on all things, you guessed it, Dallas Mavericks this offseason. So help me get to 11K. I also just want to thank you guys for getting me to 10,000. Y'all are awesome. Y'all are literally the best people on YouTube and the best fans in the NBA. But guys, we had a trade, another one, the second one of the offseason. The Mavs made a 3-team deal, and they finally did it. They finally dumped Delon Wright and Justin Jackson. They are gone. They are no more. And I know some of you guys will be like, Jimmy, you were king of Justin Jackson Island. I was at one point, but I have been clamoring for a Justin Jackson trade since the season ended, and a Delon Wright trade as well. And it finally happened. They shipped Delon Wright to the Detroit Pistons, and Trevor Ariza goes from the Thunder to the Pistons. Justin Jackson goes to Oklahoma City, and the Mavs get James Johnson. So before I break this trade down and tell you why this is the deal that it is and why I think it was such a good deal for the Mavs, I want you to grade it A, B, C, D, or F. Look, the acquisition of James Johnson himself isn't worthy of an A, but everything that this trade did together, I think is worthy of an A for Donnie Nelson and Mark Cuban. And let me break down why, starting off with James Johnson for you here. They made the trade for him. They go out and get him, and all of a sudden they have their physical enforcer type. He is actually legitimately a black belt in karate, and he is an undefeated MMA fighter. He's fought in 7 MMA fights, and he's undefeated. So guess what? The next time, also I'm getting this note right in my ear from producer Dylan, a 20-0 kickboxer. That's a true story. So the next time Marcus Morris's little punk self, is what we'll say, wants to take a swing or take a jab at Luka, James Johnson's going to come in, and he's not messing around. Now, the other thing with James Johnson is that he's an expiring contract. So, yeah, he's a physical player. He's tough. He's a solid defender. He can play either forward position. But we get off of his contract next offseason, which is huge. And since they're trading away Delon Wright, they open up even more money for the next season when Giannis becomes available and other guys like Rudy Gobert are available as well. You can see his numbers. They don't pop, but 36% from 3, 8 points and 3 boards for a guy that's going to be, a reserve player and come in when you need him to. He's the Deshaun Stevenson type. And for all my Mavs fans for life that have been here since at least 2011, if not before, Deshaun Stevenson was a guy that really helped accelerate that Mavericks team in 2011. That's what James Johnson's going to be. Now, this trade happened at about 12:50 p.m. Central Time, I believe is when it was going down. I had just gotten out of the Chat Sports office. I drove home. I lay down on the couch. I said, all right, I'm going to watch some of The Office, and then I'm going to go to bed because nothing else is going to happen. And then bling, bing, 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 bing. My phone just starts blowing up, and it comes in, and I was awake, but were you awake? Type Y for yes, type in for no. I want to see how many of my Mavs fans were actually awake with me. I went live on Twitter for about 45 minutes, not that long, maybe a shorter time, to kind of break it all down. So if you were awake, you might have seen it, but let me know in the comments. Were you awake when the Mavs acquired James Johnson? Now, this was the second trade the Mavs made, and here was the first one, is when they went out and got Josh Richardson on draft night. They also acquired Tyler Bay, who is now going to be on a 2-way contract for the Dallas Mavericks, and they also sent away Seth Curry. And why I kind of want to talk about this deal a little bit more, I want to recap everything the Mavs have done, but I especially want to focus in here on the fact that the Mavs got Josh Richardson. And I know I've talked about it already, but at this point, here's the deal with Josh Richardson. He's played with James Johnson in Miami. He's already buddy-buddy with him. We saw it put on his Instagram story that he's hyped to get him in here. Richardson is a defensive stalwart. He is an absolute dog, and he and James Johnson together are going to wreak havoc on some other teams' offenses. And so, yeah, you lose Seth Curry, you lose his shooting, but you also dump the awful contract, not really awful, but the useless contract of Delon Wright and the uselessness that was Josh Jackson, and you upgrade Justin Jackson, and you upgrade from 2 guys that weren't going to play in the rotation to a guy in Josh Richardson that's going to start, and another guy in James Johnson that's going to come in and kind of be in the rotation, I think, a little bit more regularly, especially while Kristaps Porzingis is down and out. Now, Richardson was kind of placed in a pretty tough spot with Philadelphia where the floor spacing was not good, and so people were focusing in on him. But his numbers look a lot like Tim Hardaway Jr.'s numbers before he came over to Dallas, and so I think Luke is going to have the same effect on Richardson as he did on Tim Hardaway Jr. The first free agency move the Mavs actually made was re-signing one of their own by getting Trey Burke, which I broke down last night on the channel, as you already saw, for what I think was an absolute bargain at 3 years, $10 million. They use up about $3 million of the mid-level exception, so they still have about $6.3 million left to go out and spend on someone else, which everyone is speculating will be on another big man. He becomes that really primary secondary playmaker off the bench, and look, when he was with Dallas, he shot 43% from three and put up 12 points per game in his time in the NBA bubble, Trey Burke did. And now you bring him back, and I'm excited to see what he can do on a whole season getting consistent minutes. Because remember, when the Mavs got him from New York, he wasn't getting consistent minutes, but in the bubble, he was, and he thrived. Now, another report that's come out from Brad Townsend, the ever-trusty Brad Townsend that seems to never sleep, is that JJ Barea is expected to return to Dallas. This should not come as a shock to anyone. I should not see anyone freaking out or getting all pissed off about JJ Barea coming back because, look, you're going to give him a roster spot. The Mavs opened up an extra roster spot when they traded away 2 guys for 1 in James Johnson. So this is going to take up one of those. It'll probably be a minimum deal. There's nothing official on this, but look, at the end of the day, JJ's coming in. He's going to play the mentor role. You want to keep Luka Doncic happy? This is how you do it because he and JJ were real tight, real buddy-buddy. And so now you get all these guys that are friends, and this chemistry is growing. JJ, Boban, Luka, those 3 are super tight, along with Kristaps Porzingis. James Johnson and Josh Richardson have played together. That chemistry is already there, and it comes in and builds in. Jalen Brunson drafted with Luka. They're best friends. Maxey and Dorian Finney-Smith, Dwight Powell. Everyone loves Dwight. And so bringing in JJ Barea is more of a chemistry move and continues to keep players happy. So, look, I want you guys to make your predictions. What do you think is next? I think another trade could be on the horizon, purely speculating. No sources here on this one. But I think there's another trade on the horizon because the Mavs still have another roster spot. And if it's not a trade, they still have $6 million to go spend on the mid-level. Now, ideally, I think it would be a guy like Serge Ibaka. I would have said Jay Crowder, but he just recently signed with the Phoenix Suns on a deal that, hey, the Mavs couldn't have afforded anyway. So make your predictions in the comment section. What's next for Dallas? But I'll tell you what's next for you. Is going out and getting yourself a brand new Dallas Mavericks jersey. Maybe you want a Josh Richardson number 0 jersey. Hey, first player to wear number 0 since Sean Marion was a Dallas Maverick. Maybe you want that James Johnson kind of rep it, the MMA fighter in the Mavs. Maybe you want one of the rookies. Guess what? They're going to have those available at chatsports.com/Mavs jersey for 25% off. Josh Richardson, Josh Green, Tyrell Terry, James Johnson, maybe Tyler Bay, Nate Hinton, and Freddie Gillespie are 2 other guys that the Mavs could be adding as well. Go get yourself a new jersey, add it to your Dallas Mavericks collection, and do it for cheap while you can. So I kind of want to look at what this roster now looks like as a whole for the Dallas Mavericks because, look, they've added a ton of new players, and I know I can't show them all on the screen here, but I think your starting 5 is going to look something like this with Luka Doncic, Tim Hardaway Jr. in the backcourt still. Josh Richardson probably plays the 3 because he's still 6'6". I think Dwight Powell is your starter on day 1, but maybe it's KP and Dorian's in there at the power forward position. Whatever it is, it'll be some mix of these guys in the rotation depending on the matchups. Brunson and Trey Burke are your primary guards off the bench. Josh Green now I think will get some real playing time. Dorian Finney-Smith, of course. Maxi Kleber. Also now James Johnson. JJ Barea is back there. Boban's back there. This is a team that wasn't that deep and was pretty limited in their depth to all of a sudden you get guys like James Johnson kind of closer to the end of your bench but can come in when you need him. And look at what I said my needs were for the Mavs going into the offseason. I haven't updated this since they've done it. I wanted to show it because the needs going into the offseason were bigs, enforcers, and creators. I also added defense in there before the draft, but I took that one out. They went out and got a big who can play either forward position in James Johnson. They got enforcers in Josh Richardson, James Johnson, and Josh Green. I was listening to a podcast over in Australia, and they were saying, look, Josh Green brings that Australian mindset where he's going to go out and make the dirty plays when he needs to. Not dirty as in, illegal, but he does the dirty work. And then you also got your creators, Tyrell Terry, Trey Burke. You bring back JJ Barea. You get back a healthy Jalen Brunson. The Mavs have done everything they need to do while adding cap space for next year and adding defense around this team. I'm super happy with this offseason so far. I still think there are a couple moves to be made on this Mavericks team. I would just have to wait and see. But even if the Mavs do nothing, even if the Mavs stand pat and they just bring back their own guys like JJ Barea, I'm giving this offseason a thumbs up. And I know I'm playing super optimist Mavs fan here, but Josh Richardson, Josh Green, James Johnson, let me know what you guys think. Do you like it? put your thumb up emoji. If you don't like it, put your thumb down, and I'll respond to you in the comment section and tell you why you're wrong.